Hey guys, Heiko is back from a short YouTube sabbatical. We had too much stuff going on here at home with a home remodel and also way too much stuff going on at my day job. But that's now all slowing down and I'm finding more time to sit in front of the computer and edit some older videos. I had started a series of a Airhead top-end reseal. There's already a part 1 out where I'm showing how I'm removing one of the cylinders and cylinder heads. Here now just a video on how I made my own wrist pin removal tool. And then we're going to continue on with further taking things apart and resealing the top end of my Airhead motorcycle. Alright guys, enjoy. Hey guys, yesterday we started taking apart my BMW Airhead. And we are resealing the top end because this thing is leaking oil like crazy. I don't like that. And a top end reseal is really not that complicated as long as you follow manuals and you know what you're doing. To be able to do a top end reseal without removing the... actually, in any case, to do a top end reseal, you will need a tool to push the wrist pin out of the piston. Some people heat the piston and then they are lucky and they can push the wrist pin right out of the piston. Other people just use a tool. There's a company out there, boxer2valve.com. They have a commercially available tool which is like over $100, and just to do a couple wrist pins on one bike, I didn't see really the necessity to spend all that kind of money. So then yesterday I already made a version of kind of a DIY home version of this wrist pin removal tool. I'm going to show you the version that we made yesterday, and today we're just going to improve upon that to make it easier to remove the wrist pin on the second cylinder. So here's the version that we made yesterday. This end here goes behind this all thread goes through the wrist pin, and this side here with this little washer rests on the wrist pin, and then on the other side you've got to imagine you have the piston right here in the middle. This black ABS piece of pipe with this radius sanded into the end will rest on the piston itself, and then we have a couple large washers over here and another nut, and then you just spin this nut in, tighten it up, and then this all thread will pull the wrist pin through the piston that sits here out, and then you can remove the connecting rod from the piston and pull your cylinder and your piston off of your motorcycle. But this piece of ABS here is 1.5 inches that was just a little large, and today I have this, it's a PVC fitting, threaded fitting. I'm just going to cut this up, perfect diameter to make the wrist pin go inside, and we're gonna cut this up, redo the radius, and then we're just gonna modify this tool. And then we're gonna take a look at how to actually remove cylinder, piston, do a top end reseal. So first I'm gonna cut off one of the threaded ends. Be careful, it's round, and bandsaws, they like to catch and spin a round item, so just be careful. Like that. Once you got it started, usually it works out. So that's cut off. We're going to sand the end flush. And now, since we already made a version yesterday, which works, but it's just a little large. It doesn't need to be that large. We're just going to roughly guesstimate the length here. Ow. So that's that. Now we're going to move on to my belt sander over here. That was just to make sure this is relatively perpendicular. And now I'm going to get my fake piston. Where's my fake piston? Where is it? Oh, there. So this is a 3-inch PVC coupling, and the outside diameter is almost exactly the same size as a R90 piston. And I'm just going to use this as a radius gauge. So we're going to sand a radius in one of the two ends of the pipe until the pipe follows the curvature of our fake piston here. So now the radius here on one of the ends is following the curvature of the piston replacement here. And what you now can just check if your little PVC pipe fitting that you use sits perpendicular in both directions to the piston. And then now we just need to deburr this a little bit. We don't want those plastic, leftovers. And that's pretty much already it. So this thin pipe replaces the thicker pipe just to, make it a little easier to use. All right, let's deburr. All right, so here in this case, my little ring here has those two pins that you can easily grab and push it together. You can reuse those. A lot of people say, no, don't do that, always put a fresh one in. If I end up buying new piston rings, I'm going to order those as well. So this is one, and now we're going to take the second one out. Carburetor is kinda a little bit Whoop. So taking those out is almost. If I would have shot this right into my case, that would have been a big mistake, but I got it. Whew. All right, now we're gonna grab a long zip tie. And put this around the two lower cylinder head studs, right underneath the connecting rod. Because once we pull the wrist pin out, we don't want this connecting rod to fall down and hit the edge of the case, because that's just going to cause future engine oil leaks. So this is good. This has enough strength to support this connecting rod. So now we're going to grab my homemade tool here. So this is pretty much just a long piece of all thread. Here, let's clean this up. Long piece of all thread that I have put two nuts on. They are locked against each other, and then there is a washer that has the perfect size to sit on the wrist pin in here. And now I'm going to slide this through the wrist pin from here, from the carburetor side, like so. Sits nice and flush with the wrist pin. Then our homemade plastic bushing here goes over, rests against the piston. And yesterday I used those huge washers. I'm gonna find myself a new set that's a little smaller. So here for my new improved version, I now have this washer, fits the bolt perfectly. I should also sand 2 flats on here so I can hold the end of this all thread while I'm spinning this nut on. But yesterday the removal was so uneventful that I don't think that we really need that. So you just spin a nut on. Then once you get there, you just line up everything. Yesterday with this big black 1.5 inch ABS pipe, it was just a little too unwieldy. Okay, and now we're gonna grab a, what did I say, 9/16 wrench. Hold on to the all thread and just start spinning it in. Make sure we have it all centered on the other side, in the middle of the wrist pin. Come on now. Wiggle, wiggle. Okay. Oh, here we go. Wrist pin is already moving. In some cases you don't necessarily have to remove the second wrist pin because it doesn't have those pins sticking out, so it doesn't interfere. You can push it out this way without removing the second wrist pin, but it definitely helps. The more stuff you can get out of the way. So, and now you just keep going, spinning this in, pushing the wrist pin out this way, or pulling it out more or less, until we feel that the connecting rod is disconnected from our piston. I could probably improve my technique even more by using a ratcheting wrench. Look at that. Beautiful. So you just keep going. You can even stick your finger in here. Feel the connecting rod, and when that comes down, then you know that you have pulled your wrist pin out of the connecting rod. If you pull the wrist pin all the way out, is also no big deal. Hello. Just try not to drop stuff on the ground. We're almost out. I think we can now take this nut off, take our tool out of the way, and then I'm assuming that our connecting rod is going to be free. And remember, you don't want to let the connecting rod drop and hit the edge of your case. It's just going to cause oil leaks in the future. Okay. So take this off. Here's the wrist pin still stuck in the piston. And we're going to pull this out on the other side here. There you go. And my connecting rod is now resting on the inside of the skirt of the piston, and now we can slide the piston ever so slightly back into the cylinder so we don't accidentally pull it all out and then have to replace the piston rings. And now I'm just gonna support the connecting rod, rest it on my zip tie, there you go, and pull this whole thing off. The base gasket is still stuck here, so they definitely used some sealant. Some people say not to. I say, why the heck not? Because the factory actually does it too. The factory back in the 70s, they also used some sealant on that aluminum base gasket. And so why shouldn't we, you know? Use a sparing amount of some sealant, some silicone based gasket maker. Hello. Alright, now the base gasket is giving me a hard time here. Oh my goodness, there we go. So, cylinder and piston, there you go.